Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. Silver Springs police were called to an assault at an apartment in the 200 block of Duckworth Street Thursday at 11:53 a.m. There, the officer noted visible injuries to an individual over 65 years of age. Haley Nicole Herring, age 29 of Silver Springs, was believed to be the aggressor in the assault. Herring, a healthcare worker, was arrested for injury to child elderly disabled, a felony 3. She's in Hopkins County Jail being held on a $30,000 bond. 63 students from 51 different universities across the state of Texas participated in the Texas Undergraduate Research Day at the Capitol event, which took place March 28th. The event included a variety of activities for students, such as a tour of the Capitol building, Senate House Committee building, and meetings of the full Senate and Texas House. This is the 4th such undergraduate research day that has been conducted in the past few years, showcasing the experience of undergraduate students engaged in research through high-quality poster displays. This year, Texas A&M University Commerce was represented by student Bernadette Johnson and her faculty advisor. Their post-stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder research takes a look at PTSD development in zebrafish and its prevention by introducing an antioxidant. Their research took into consideration the similarities between zebrafish and humans, namely social nature and functional parallels between select brain regions. PTSD is a psychological disorder with limited treatment options. Although molecular mechanisms that cause PTSD remain unclear, Johnson and her advisor hypothesized that zebrafish would demonstrate PTSD and the antioxidant treatment would help inhibit PTSD symptoms. Their hypothesis proved correct.
There are 2 new books of history that you are going to want to get a hold of. They are available at the Hopkins County Genealogical Society Library, which is inside the public library. And here to tell us about them are John Sellers and Shirley Patchen.
Well, the first book that we have just published is the collection of Kenneth and Sidney Bryce.
Okay.
And we're really excited about this. Shirley compiled this. This is all Sidney's newspaper articles from the 50s. So people that have been around here for a long time, and of course they remember Sidney was a historian for a long time, and she wrote a series of articles, but they never were compiled together. Okay. So we thought that to honor her and to capture some of the best history that's been written about Hopkins County is to do this.
Well, both of you are members of our genealogical society. Mm-hmm. And so, Shirley, you were working there, and how did you find these things out?
How did we find these things out? Well, when we moved from downtown and we moved to the library into our new quarters, we found things we did not know that we even had. And we have spent the last 3 years inventorying the entire room. Every box, everything, we have inventoried it, and we have a list now where you can go and type in a name search, and you can see if we have that in the library or in the archives. But these articles are just scattered throughout the library. Most of them are buried in the newspaper, the microfilm reader that we have to get out, and people just don't, it's not easy to do it. So there's some in Sydney. Celia Wright had cut out articles and taped them in her scrapbooks. There's some in the archives. And so I thought, people can't get to that. They need a way to be able to have it all together.
Well, for those who don't know who Sidney Bryce is, and I really never knew much about Kenneth Bryce, her husband.
Right.
But she was an early historian, and she had radio broadcasts here on KSST,
yes, she most
newspaper articles.
Right. She was she grew up here. Her mother had a lot of instrumental with the orphan train that they've talked about, and she was a representative of the Children's Aid Society of New York, and they even spent time in New York. And Sidney was a very educated person, graduated from high school here in the 20s, married, her maiden name was Bass. She married into the Bryce family. They raised 4 children here, but she just really had a great, and her and Kenneth both. Kenneth did a lot of the photography. Kenneth died about 20 years before Sidney did, so that might be why you didn't realize about them. But when they were writing and doing a lot with the chamber, a lot with the paper, a lot with the radio station was during the 50s.
Okay.
And we were celebrating what kind of spurred everybody's first resurgence of history during the 50s in Sulphur Springs was we were celebrating the centennial for Sulphur Springs in
Which
54.
was 2004.
No, well, the centennial was 1954.
Right, and in more recent times, the 150th.
Yes, right.
And so the collection of Kenneth and Sidney Bryce Early Histories of Hopkins County is now a book, and your vision was to get all these scattered things in one cover.
And it's indexed, it's named Index, and I wanted to talk about the place and subject index. The most wonderful thing about this book is when they mentioned something in 1953, we had no idea where it was. They would say, like, where Babcock stood. And so John took that on, and he helped me with the book by putting a geographical location for each of those places or that were named in the book. So if you would like to go to Fisher Hill and stand where the bugler would bugle the stagecoach coming into town, you can now go stand on Fisher Hill. Or the
Parts of it, anyway.
Yeah, our birthplace of Sulphur Springs was Spring Lot. That's where Sulphur Springs was born. So now that we know that, John has given us the location, and we can actually go there and know exactly where it was placed.
And that is so good for those who come after us.
Oh, of course, because there's always a discussion, and nowadays in Facebook and everything else about people talking about where was something located or how many places was it on the square or on Main Street, on Conley Street. So I thought it was really important. And the thing about that here that I was taught is that you do it geographical, so it does not outdate itself. You don't do it by saying that's where Babcock's was now. You say that it's on the south side of Main Street in between Davis and the square, and that way you always know where that is. So
because it is amazing how fast the scene changes.
Oh, yes. Even in our lifetime, you can think about a lot of locations that have been 5 and 6 things already.
Yeah, we would say where Juvenilia was, or
Yeah.
Robert's Jewelers, and
Right.
there are other businesses now.
Yes.
How long did this take you to work on, Shirley? And did you have help?
I had several people do the proofreading, and I'm sure there's still going to be some errors. You just can't catch them all. But Jen Stovall, Holly Stovall helped me do the proofreading. And then, of course, Earl Pogue is our technical director at the library, so he helped setting up margins and that kind of thing. So he helps me a lot with that. But basically, it was just locating all 61 articles that are in the book now. So there are just some amazing stories in here. My favorite one is how the town was swindled by a dandy who came to town, and he took everybody's money.
And he claimed to be someone else?
He came to town on the train, and he went to a livery stable and rented the most expensive carriage they had. Then he asked 2 little black children to play the harmonica and put them on top of the wagon. And he drove through town, and as he drove through town, he threw pennies out to the crowd. And he would say, he turned around and came back, and he said, "Would you like to trade those pennies for a nickel?" And so they all gathered up, and so he started doing jokes and skits, and so then he would trade it for a dime, and then he would trade it for a quarter, and finally $1, half a dollar, and $1, and got to $20. And then he told this crowd that he was just worn out, and he needed to take a little break, and he'd be right back. Well, they were laughing so much about all the jokes and all the going on that they didn't realize he had skipped town. So
early day fraud.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just astounded.
Yeah, it's the city slicker came to town and
Like our good citizens.
My. That's in there. I want to read that. I want to get that book, and
it's an amazing
not
book.
out of reach for people to afford.
Oh, no, it's only $30. Okay. And I mean, there's so much history that they're available at the library. And of course, we're open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. On Thursdays, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We're not open on Wednesdays. And then on Saturday morning from 9 to 12. So right there in the front room of the public library.
Okay. But Thursdays, the library stays open late, but your library doesn't.
I know we do. That's where we have our meetings on the third Thursday of every month, so we're open later.
And I'm always having people ask, how much do you charge for us to come in? We don't charge anything. We're free. You come in, we can set you down, and we can get you started on finding your family.
Right.
So it doesn't cost anything. There's lots of volunteers that are ready and willing to help you get your tree back.
We appreciate members, and when you are a member of the society, you get our quarterly and get some other small perks. But Shirley's right. Coming and use our library is totally free. But we are a nonprofit organization, and that's one of the ways we raise money is by compiling these books. But this book is just so important to our history, and it's very inexpensive. And we really want to honor Sydney Bryce because she is definitely one of the outstanding historians of Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County. And Kenneth.
There's another booklet that we want to talk about, but not yet, because I want to ask Shirley, how did you get the interest in this kind of thing?
My aunt Nell Weisenbaker started me in genealogy when I was 17 years old. We had no cameras, no copiers. We had no, we were basically writing everything that we did. And I would follow her to the cemeteries, to the courthouses, to the library. And I have always done genealogy. So it's something I've been interested in since my aunt Nell got me started. And it's a great hobby. It's a puzzle. You become a detective. Right. Because you got to find those relatives, and it's just a fun thing.
Well, it's so much greater now with the computers because we don't have to go to all the towns to try to dig up stuff.
It helps. There's still a lot of things that aren't on the computer, but you're absolutely correct that it's a lot easier to get started. There's a lot at your fingertips. You can do a lot sitting in your house, but there's still things at times that you're going to need to go into libraries and cemeteries and courthouses. But
well, you have to find your sources.
Yes.
And even like some of the websites out there, people put things on that are not always true.
Mm-hmm.
Do they?
They do.
Yes, just like they used to say about books. You can't believe everything you read. Well, you can't believe everything on the internet either.
What goes there doesn't stay there. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I got started. And I've been working at volunteer at the library for about 10 years. And the last 3 years is just, I've just about lived at the library along with several other ladies. And
well, so many people find that maybe when they get empty nest or they retire, whatever, then they look for something else to do that's absorbing. And would you say it's just a whole world? Genealogy is just a whole world.
Well, it's a bug, and if you get bit, there's no cure.
Yeah, I got bit really early.
So, do you know that it was Sydney that got John going?
Really?
Well, again, when I came back, I was gone. I went to school at Tech, and then I lived in Dallas for about 10 years. And when I first came back, and I thought, well, I already was doing genealogy, but I thought I needed to get interested in local history. And Sydney was still around, and she was still going to the Historical Society. And so she said, John, you need to carry on this history of Hopkins County and Sulphur Springs. And she took me in her wings and let me go over her house and explore through all her old boxes and all her old writings, and a lot of that material that she let me go through when she passed away was given to the Genealogical Society. So on top of these articles, there were lots of other things that she had collected, pictures and things over the years that really enhance our collection.
I know there was kind of a flap about making the move inside the public library, but it has worked out great.
Oh, it's worked out wonderful. It's beautiful.
Wonderful.
We've got a lot of room. It's beautiful.
Tell us about the booklet, Hopkins County 1895 souvenir booklet, and we don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
But it's not a very big book.
No, it's not. It was a booklet that was published back in 1895. We only have 3 original copies. The library at A&M Commerce Archivable floor, 4th floor has a copy. John has a copy, and we have a copy. Then we also have 1 photocopy. And so I was like, okay, here's another great book that nobody knows anything about. So I started with the magnifying glass looking at that 121-year-old paper and retyped it. And then we put an index with that so that people can readily use it as well.
It's got wonderful pictures. It's got some short bios on some of the leaders of the town in 1895. It's really the only, other than that, and the E.B. Fleming book, which is about 7 years later, The History of Hopkins County, are the only two biographical books that I've ever seen on Sulphur Springs in Hopkins County.
It's amazing because it picks up right after 1894 with this book, and when you go right into 1895. So there's 61 bios on the businessman.
Okay.
And there's also histories of the schools and the churches in the 1895 book. And it's in a real pretty soft, sparkly colored cover.
Right.
And it's just made
How much is that book?
It's only $20.
That's $20.
And it was written by the H. Bascom.
Yep, Thomas.
Thomas Bascom.
One of the Thomas family.
And it was the Gazette. And
Forerunner of our newspaper.
Yes.
yes.
It's been so fascinating, and we could talk on and on. If you want to know a little bit more, you can call down to the library, which number is 885-8523.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when will you be there, Shirley?
I'm there every Friday.
Okay.
And I usually come in on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So I'm there twice a week.
There's someone to help you there all the time. It is 8:30, and I regret to say we have to go, but
That's okay.
No problem.
please
Thank
come
you for
back
having
again.
us.
Yes.
And come back often.
We will.
you.
Thank you.
Don't forget, on Tuesday, April 4th, the annual 55 Plus Health Fair at The Rock, sponsored by First Baptist Church from 9 a.m. until noon, featuring 50 healthcare vendors and an opportunity to win door prizes provided by each vendor. An estimated 1 in 5 traffic crashes in Texas is caused by distracted driving, and the problem is getting worse. As part of the National Distracted Driving Awareness Month in April, the Texas Department of Transportation is launching its Talk, Text, Crash campaign to remind drivers to stay focused on the road. Last year, there were 108,962 distracted driving crashes in Texas, which is up 3% over 2015. Those crashes killed 452 people, seriously injured another 3,068, and are highest among drivers ages 16 to 34. In Texas, 38% of drivers say they regularly or sometimes use their cell phones while driving. Text messaging is particularly dangerous as reaction times double when drivers read or send text messages. A driver texting at 55 miles per hour will lose sight of the road for nearly 5 seconds, which is comparable to driving the length of a football field while blindfolded. While mobile phone use is the most recognizable driver distraction, other high-risk activities include adjusting a music player, grooming, eating, or programming a navigation system. The Talk, Text, Crash campaign reminds drivers to put away their cell phones, pull over to a safe location if they must talk or text, use an app that will block texts and calls while driving, tell friends and family and colleagues you won't respond to calls or texts while driving, and always give driving your full attention. Here's Don with sports.
After a Friday Mount Pleasant track meet was canceled this week due to the bus tragedy after a meet last week, the Wildcats and Lady Cats track teams were able to put together a Thursday dual meet at Paris. We get results from Wildcats track coach Matt Young.
We did well. It was a way to get another good workout in. We with the tragedy in Mount Pleasant, so we're kind of left to go. Just ran a dual meet with Paris. Their coaches did a great job letting us come over. Very, very casual. We kind of paired up at field events and just worked through it. If kids need an extra rep, we might measure a scratch. Just really allowed us to coach, and really highly productive. We had lots of PRs going on. Josh Thompson, the discus, threw 143, which is his best throw. Got some good work in the shot. Ian Blanche continues to climb into those high 43s, trying to get up to that 45 area. Tyson Goodson in triple jump went 40'11" into the wind. Just lots of productive things going on field event wise. Distance guys got a good run in. It was a little bit different time wise. They weren't on PR, but got good work. 2 mile. Eli had a good 800. Really happy how he's going. Landon did his 2 mile thing. Started slow and then came back. And we ran Peyton Vickery in the 800 to see just how he actually ran really well, and then also turned around and ran a good mile after. So we got some choices to make as we get closer to district, how we want to actually use those guys, where we want to throw them into races. Relay-wise, we still got work to do on our handoffs. Not really pleased how that went last night. We're still juggling some guys health-wise. Got great effort from them, but we've got some work to do this week, and we'll get it back on track before we get to the district track meet. We had guys kind of shuffled as we're getting toward the end. We didn't run Humphreys in the 100 this week. next week we'll take him out 300 hurdles. He ran 300 hurdles, ran a 40.6. Really pleased there. Mason Buck turned around and ran a 41 flat. Excited there. Landry Tyson did fair as well. He hit the first hurdle and failed, but ran really well afterwards. We look for great things from those three at the district track meet. And the 110 hurdles, Terrell Turman ran probably his best race of the year, a low 16. And then we had a little surprise. One of our freshmen, Callum Wade, turned around and ran a 15.9. And kind of jumped out. We knew he had some potential, and it clicked for him last night. So it's going to be interesting to see what Wade does on down the road. In the quarter, no real surprises there. Just a good workout. We're still kind of shuffling through some times, trying to see how we end up running the mile relay. And then it really comes down to our mile relay. Those guys ran last night. We had a Ricardo Torres, a youngster, run high 53 in his split. Austin Dodd ran in the 54-55 range. Still shaking some. Nabian Ramirez ran. Landry Tyson ran. Lawrence Worth, 54-55. Really looking for those guys to get in that 52-53 range. So some stuff still up in the air. We're taking a select group to Kennedale for a final tune-up, not doing all their events, one, maybe two, on Thursday. At the same time, the scratch meeting will be going on for district. And we turn around a week from Monday and start the district track meet on Monday and Wednesday. So really excited how things are coming together. You could see kids getting a little more bounce in their step as we're starting to back off here down the last stretch. And we really hope that pays off this week in our preparation for district.
The Lady Cats track team also competed at that dual meet at Paris Thursday after a Friday Mount Pleasant meet was canceled after their bus tragedy last week. We also get results from Lady Cats track coach Tristan Abram.
It was very different. I will say, it was a different atmosphere, and it was great to go get work in. It wasn't viewed, I don't think, as far as from the athlete standpoint, as a true track meet. And with that being said, the times and the jumps and even some of the throws, I didn't think were as great as I would like for them to be at this time in the season. But with that being said, I take into account that the atmosphere just wasn't the same, and whenever you go from a true track meet atmosphere to a kind of a practice with a few people in the stands and a couple of people on the field, it changes the mindset, and it actually changes the adrenaline flow, just to be honest with you. But for the most part, I like the fact that we were able to go compete. I enjoyed the fact that I could slow down and I could stop some events to coach up some kids and try to fix some technique things in the process of us competing or having other people around, and that was good. As far as where I was working as far as field events, we measured every jump. It didn't matter if an athlete scratched or not. We measured their jump, and it was great to be able to show them as well. If you're not hitting the board when you're jumping, let's measure from where you jumped from. Things that you can't do at other meets, and it was able to show the athletes, how important it is to make sure our steps are right, make sure we're jumping off the board, because, measuring from the board, you just jumped a 32-foot triple jump, but if we're measuring from where you left from, you jumped a 36-foot triple jump. That's a huge difference. So the importance of those small things, it was really great that we could do that in that type of setting. To name a few individuals that I was just really pleased with was Sydney Washburn, freshman distance runner. She did a great job in the 2 mile and in the mile. It wasn't her best time in the mile, but to see her get out and compete and finish that race about 75 meters ahead of the next person was awesome. She's a young lady that puts in great work, and I'm really pleased with what she's doing this season, and really looking forward to what she's going to do in the future. Nasai Dugan had a great day yesterday sprinting, and again it was weird because of the atmosphere, but she ran her best time of the season in the 100, and I was really happy with that. Sadavia Porter was a step behind her. So I think Sadavia has a little bit better time this season, but for those young ladies to go out and sprint like that and to run and to compete against one another. And that's the great thing about those two. You know, whenever you have them in the same event and they're able to line up right next to each other and go compete against one another, you know, they have that little personal competition going amongst each other. It's really good because they push one another and they're making each other better. But I was really pleased with those two young ladies and what they did. In the hurdles, Faith Hatley. Faith had a spill here at our track meet and caused a little bit of an injury, and to see her progression and get back up and these past two track meets, just go out and try to get back to where she was. It's great, and she's about there. She's about there, and that's really good for her. Because that can turn into a big mental deal, you know, whenever you take a fall on that track going over a hurdle. And I'm really pleased with her mindset when it comes to that event. Abby Bear, yesterday, we didn't run her in the 100-meter hurdles, but we ran her in the 300 hurdles. Again, wasn't her best time of the season, and like I said, at this point, we're wanting to try to PR and get those personal records. But with that being said, it wasn't the district meet, so I'm okay with that, and we're going to take Abby and some of these other girls next week to Kennedale, which is going to be a really fast meet. I was able to take a few last year, and they realized how fast the competition is over there in the Metroplex and at that meet. So I think that's going to be a pretty good meet for us to possibly PR and break some more of these school records that we have in here, because we'll have the competition pushing us to do so. But all in all, I'm pleased with the fact that we were able to do something. To go a week and not do anything would have been really tough on us, especially going into one more meet where we're really not taking an entire group on either side, boys or girls, and then having to go into the district meet following that. So it was great to be able to go over there. We're very appreciative of Paris for allowing us to come over, and it was great to get a little work in.
The Wildcats and Lady Cats track teams will be competing at a Kennedale meet next Thursday. It will be the final meet before the district track meet coming up April 12th and 13th at Pine Tree.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.